Welcome to the Alsco Uniforms It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Join us as we spend time with Alsco Chief Operating Officer Jim Kearns. I'm your host, Dana Craig. Let's get started. Jim Kearns, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Dana. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. We're rolling into barreling in, it's more like it, to the end of the year here, so we wanted to meet with you and discuss your last branch visits for the year. I believe we're in September.
Correct.
And then you'll pick back up in January or February of next year. But you went back east, saw 4 different branches.
Right.
So Alexandria, Virginia, Atlanta, Maryland, so right there in that DC corridor where we have quite a bit of business. Then you headed north to Wilmington, Delaware, and then further north to Rochester, New York. Is that right?
Okay. That's right.
And so you were there in fall. Hopefully it was not, I think it was still quite warm though, wasn't it?
Nice.
In Maryland,
nice.
yeah. So you started your trip in Alexandria, I believe. Maybe you started in Atlanta?
I think we started in Atlanta.
Okay, let's start where you started then. So General Manager Tony Tamanini, he's been in that position for maybe right around 2 years?
2 years, I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
All right. And one of our focus branches and a branch that you've visited before. So how did you find it during this visit?
You know, the branch looked great. And so they have made some real improvements since the last time we were there. We had a great, visit with the RSRs on the dock. I've been there a couple of times now, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. So I saw some guys that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, and it was nice to see them, doing well now. So the plant looked terrific. Have experienced some equipment issues. They seem to have that behind them, and things seem to be going well there.
Well, they also had quite a bit of new business as well, and new business coming in at the same time of new equipment, and then equipment issues, etc.
They had some challenges. And what's this particular plan, really fights the heat in the summertime. And as you said, it was still warm there, but not as warm as it had been. And so it was nice that they finally seen some cooler weather, and they weren't having to take the heat breaks and the different things that they were doing to accommodate the employees in those hot summers back there. So.
And what was the tone around what they think is coming next? Still excited about growth? Feel like they have some capacity still to be had there?
They do. They've balanced out their 2 shifts. I think they've got the right people managing both of those, and so they believe they can grow even further. So they're really they're servicing the Hershey account, and I think they've really got that account onboarded now. So they have opportunities to do other things, for sure.
One of the things, Tony's been interesting to watch as he's kind of grown into that role, and a real good team builder and leader there, I think. But one of the things that I know he was particularly proud about is that during their equipment downtimes, they were relying on some of the other near-ish plants to help him out of a bind, and they are now in that position where they're able to be the helper, which I know is a point of pride for them.
That was, a couple of years ago you wouldn't have expected that they could do that. Today they're doing that. I followed their results. They had a terrific October, and so these guys are starting to do a few things right there.
Right.
It's exciting to see, and you can tell. I mean, it's the same team. These guys are getting better at what they're doing. They're working, collaboratively together. Good things are happening in Atlanta.
Well, that's great. That was a good way for you to start off your trip, I imagine.
Yeah.
So then you kind of just go right down the road. I don't imagine Alexandria is very far at all. How did your visit in Alexandria go?
So Alexandria still has some challenges. They've got some challenges inside the plant and challenges outside the plant, and so they've got their work cut out for them. And so they need to they need to grow the business more, and then they need to deal with some issues inside the plant. It's an older facility, and so we're going to have to work hard to make sure that we've got the equipment running the way it should run, and making sure that we're producing good quality and providing great service. So they've got a ways to go still.
Did you have an opportunity to meet RSRs on the dock there? And had you been to Alexandria last year?
We've been to that.
Did you go?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were at Alexandria last year. Yes, we spent some time on the dock there. They have some good drivers. We were trying to encourage those guys to in Lanham, the RSRs were really starting to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we were trying to encourage that in Alexandria. We had a nice route meeting back in their cafeteria. They brought in some donuts. We had a big group there. Had good conversations with them. So yeah, good group.
Good. Well, hopefully, if you get to visit them again next year, you're really pleased with the progress that they make in 2026. Is a good year for them. So then you were on to Wilmington, which is another branch that I know you've been to before, and that we speak with that management team pretty frequently. Scott Holdren is our general manager there. He's been general manager 6 months-ish, is that?
Yeah, that or maybe a little bit longer.
Maybe a little longer?
Maybe
Okay.
a little longer, but he's pretty new.
Yeah, but he was the service manager
Right.
and very, very service oriented. I've always really
Right.
enjoyed working with Scott. But tell me a little bit about your visit at Wilmington.
Like Lanham, the Wilmington, the plant looked terrific. The 5S is good there. We did a nice tour there. We had a great, time on the dock with the RSRs. We were out on the dock. They have some very gregarious RSRs. They like to talk, and so it was fun to see. And these guys are, really doing a great job. They've got a green bell in the service department that they ring when they get a new account. That was something I noticed the first time I was there, and that's something they're still using. And so yeah, what a good group of RSRs. They have a nice team there. I like the service manager. I know we've had one RSR on
Julio Dominguez, yeah. And I was trying to think when that was, which I'm not going to be good at thinking. It's probably been a year. But yes, he's a young gentleman, great RSR, and he really took the idea about selling new accounts to heart. And it was actually one of the most fun interviews I think that I've had. It was a real pleasure to speak with him, and he was selling into accounts that weren't even going to be on his route. So
Yeah.
I thought that's really a company guy,
They were very proud of him, and this is one of the first group of RSRs who I was talking to them, asking them if they ever watch these podcasts, and these guys do, and so that was great to hear from that team.
And so Wilmington I actually haven't been to the Wilmington branch. I've been to their depot when we did the Churchill acquisition, but fairly small branch, a bit cramped, I think, but it sounds like, at least from the 5S perspective, they're trying to make the most of that space that they have available.
Unfortunately, when we were there last time, they had a water leak on the second floor, and so
That's
we
right.
actually had to meet in the hotel, so that has all been fixed and repaired. Yeah, it's a small branch. One of the things that we're going to be able to do with Wilmington and a branch that's close by Allentown, we'll be able to move some volume around that will help both of these branches better service their customers, and so that's something that is going to benefit Wilmington in the future.
Yeah, definitely, and looking forward to embarking on that project at some
Right.
point in 2026 when conditions are right, shall we say.
Yeah, I think there's like Lanham, there's some real stability in the team in Wilmington, and that is starting to pay off. And so we're starting to see some good results from that branch.
So you ended your trip in Rochester, so Rochester, New York, kind of right outside Buffalo. Kurt Hoffman is our general manager there. He's played several roles in that branch, I believe, for a while, and has been general manager probably for also less than a year, somewhere in that time frame. And that's a branch that has two separate buildings and kind of processing items separately, a lot of COG business as well. They've had several challenges this past year with new business. Talk a little bit about your visit in Rochester.
Well, the Rochester visit was good, but as you pointed out, they've taken on a lot of new business, and so that has presented some challenges to us. And so, we spent a lot of time talking about that. They have two plants, like you've indicated, kind of in the same facility. They call it a specialty plant and the main plant, and so we're going to have to figure out how to get the volume processed more efficiently in that plant so that we can provide better service. I know a lot of the teams working, a lot of overtime, but we've got, new equipment it's on its way there that should help them. And so, we'll see how this goes. But they're definitely have some challenges ahead of them with all of this new business, which kind of underscores how well you have to plan for this and be prepared for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to understand what you're getting yourself into when you take on these very large accounts. But they're up for the task. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys they're working hard.
And it's the type of business that is not uncommon to them. So I think it's just getting the right things in place. Sometimes when that was Lannon's challenge, I think, taking on a type of business, COG business, that really was not their bread and butter, something they weren't particularly familiar with. And it took them a while to figure out the best way to process that. Rochester, hopefully, will get there pretty quickly.
I think Rochester has a lot of equipment constraints that we're dealing with now, but they were used to doing some larger COG accounts, so it's in their wheelhouse. It's going to take them some time to get on track and to make sure that they're providing the level of service that they can.
Right. Did you have an opportunity to meet on the dock with RSRs in Rochester? Do you recall?
We did meet with several RSRs on the dock in Rochester. I mean, we had a good visit. We talked to these guys about the accounts that they were servicing, and talked about selling new business and that kind of stuff. And yeah, we had a productive conversation with those guys.
Good. So that was a pretty busy trip for you in September, followed on by probably not 2 weeks later or something, by Managers Meeting 2025 that we held in Carlsbad, California this year. This is the general managers meeting that we hold once every 2 years.
Right.
And how do you feel that the meeting went? Did we get the messages clear that we hoped to get?
Yeah, I think the meeting was terrific. One thing that was terrific, it was in California, we had nice weather, right?
Yeah.
And so the weather was spectacular. But our theme was, keep growing, keep going. And so we, part of the agenda was to allow some of our branches to make presentations on, how they were growing their businesses. So we had 3 general managers and RSMs get up and talk about, what was working at their plants, and heard a lot of great ideas, that I hope, resonated with some of the other, GMs and RSMs that were in the room, about what we might do differently. We had some branches make presentations about how they improved RSR sales. And that was great to hear. We talked about setting budget expectations for next year and areas where we want to focus on. And so I think everybody walked away with a pretty clear idea of what our direction is going into 2026. And so I think everybody was pretty motivated. We started off the conference with Kat Cole kind of bringing us back to the last managers meeting in Hawaii, where we talked about growth is our water. And
She was our keynote speaker then. And then
she was our keynote speaker in person then. This time we had a video from her, kind of kicking off our meeting. And it was good to hear her perspective on some of the challenges that businesses, not businesses like ours, but in other industries face, as they grow and as they, work through various challenges.
Right.
So, it kind of, resonated with us that some of the things that we're facing, some of the challenges that we have are not unique to Alsco.
Right.
They're problems that businesses face every day, just in different sizes and shapes and forms. And so,
well, and I think our desire for things to happen quickly is different than the ability for them to happen quickly. We've made so much progress if you really go back to that period of time, 2023, I guess it was, and really think about where we were at then and the progress that we've made. And while it may not have manifested itself in all of the places we want it to yet, I think foundationally it's keep growing, keep going is exactly the right message for right now.
So we ended the conference with another keynote speaker who talked about, his message was really about how to provide exemplary customer service, right, and how to make the experience unique, something better. And that really resonated with, our GMs and the audience about, it just takes little things. You just have to do some little things in order to create a, extraordinary experience for our customers and how that pays off. And so I thought, he left us with a lot of practical things that we can do to help, make our customer experiences better with our.
So that was Shep Hyken, our
Shep Hyken,
2025 keynote speaker, and we'll have a separate podcast episode actually with an interview with him. But he was very entertaining, really good energy to end on, I thought, and a few practical things to really take away. So, and a lot of times, and I find this with a lot of these kinds of things, it's not necessarily things you have not heard before, but we all need reminders. We need to be reinvigorated around certain thoughts and ideas, and I felt like his keynote served that purpose.
Yeah, and there's, and it's so important because there's so many people, like, he tells a story about an Uber driver who makes, does just a few extra things that makes, a complete difference. So, those are the things we can take back and encourage our RSRs, how they can, make a positive experience, by asking the right questions and, checking up and following up on the right things. And so, it was the right time. The message was high energy and, at the right time.
Yeah. And the other thing that we noted a couple of times at that meeting was the number of new people sitting in the room, which is change in and of itself, right? So these are people who are either in a new role that they weren't in 2023 or just new to the company. And so for that cohort in particular, I think the meeting was super impactful and gives them a little bit more of a sense of how they fit into the bigger Alsco organization.
Right. I mean, the feedback that we got after the meeting was very positive. And so I thought it was a big success. The next day after the meeting concluded, everybody got to go to Vista and see our wonderful plant in Vista and did a nice tour there. And so that I heard very positive things about that as well. So that was great to give everybody a chance to see one of our showpieces in the North American Vision.
So last topic, and perhaps the most exciting one, if this is what you think is excitement. But looking forward to 2026. So we're mid-November now. We only have 6 more weeks until the end of the year. They will fly by, as you well know. And we are madly budgeting and finalizing that, doing a lot of our planning for projects and things for next year. What has you excited about 2026?
There's a couple of things that have me excited. One is, our results in the third quarter. I mean, we're seeing some real, for the first time in a while, we're seeing some real organic growth. Something we had set our sights on that we've been working towards, and so we're seeing that happen in Q3, and I see it happening in October. It really feels like to me that we are turning the corner. So. It takes some time for, some effort to pay off, but it feels like we're headed in the right direction today. We have had some projects, in branches where we've got a lot going on and we're working on a lot of different things, but it feels like we are starting to, hit our stride.
So we will continue on, of course, with projects as we always do. And some of that is what I would put in the maintenance category, like things that we just need to kind of like keeping your house up and running. And then some of it is really attempting to elevate people or make them more ready for growth in particular markets. And so I think as we look forward to those projects too, we've learned a lot from the projects we've done over the last 18 months or so, and how readiness for a big project or readiness for growth that you kind of can't plan enough.
Right.
I think is, contingency plans, thinking about how something really could affect you, and phoning a friend when you get into a little bit of trouble.
That is so true, right? You can't ask too many questions. You can't be prepared enough. And these are big steps, right? When you're trying to grow the business or you're doing, a major CapEx project, and they will have an impact on your business, and so you've got to be ready. You have to be prepared for it.
So, do you think that you would like to continue to speak with me on the podcast in 2026? Is that something that you're particularly excited about?
I'm definitely excited about it. I mean, I hope people that are listening are excited. I mean, you do a great job with these podcasts. I love to listen to some of the other people that get a chance to that you get a chance to talk to. So, I'd be interested to know if people, are interested in continuing the dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, I plan to, visit more branches next year. I haven't picked out where we're going yet, but
Right.
I've slotted in some weeks. And so that's one of the best parts about my job is to going out and seeing our operations.
Right.
And, sometimes, what you look at on paper is different than what you see when
That's
you go
right,
out and
yeah.
meet the people and see the facilities and see what we're doing out there. I always walk away from these branch visits very inspired. And look, if we see something that's not going right, I walk away with, a clear idea of what we're going to do to fix it. And
Right.
that's good to see and get boots on the ground. So yeah, I enjoy it. I hope to keep doing it.
I imagine that you will get a chance to keep doing that. I look forward to our future conversations in 26, and thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Dana.
That's all for today's episode of the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Alsco uniforms, where we explore the growth and challenges in our industry. Tune in next time for more industry insights, growth strategies, and tales from the field. If you've enjoyed our time together, please leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to learn more about our services, visit us at alsco.com. From all of us here at the It Pays to Keep Clean podcast at Alsco Uniforms, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay clean, and we'll see you in the next episode.